Hey there, and welcome back to Local Marketing Secrets. I'm your host, Danny Leibrandt, and today I'm with Ben Heath. If you don't already know Ben, he is one of the top names in Facebook ads. He has over 1 million followers across social media with over 300,000 subscribers on his main YouTube channel. He's been running his agency, Heath Media, for over 9 years now, which now has over 50 employees. Over those 9 years, they have managed over $150 million of Facebook ads and Google ads. And not only that, but they have also generated over $600 million in client revenue. So it's safe to say he knows what he's talking about. If you want to learn how to do Facebook ads for your local business, Ben is going to break down everything you need to know in this podcast. So without further ado, thanks for coming on the show, Ben.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the very warm intro, and happy to be here and get into it.
Definitely, man. Well, I first off want to say before we jump into it that I really respect you. I really respect what you're doing. The production value of your YouTube videos are insane, man. I was watching some last night. I was just blown away. I think this is really what creators that are maybe doing some kind of tutorials really need to strive for. So I just kind of wanted to give you props there. And if someone hasn't seen your YouTube channel, which actually I believe you have two, you have your main one and then the Google Ads one.
I've got a
Man,
Facebook ad.
both of those are awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. That's hats off to my team, my editors and videographers and stuff like that. Because I just
definitely
I sit there. And talk.
They're crushing
it. If it looks good, it's on them.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So I know you're super big into Facebook ads and Google ads, and like I talked about, we want to dive into Facebook ads in this episode. Maybe we do another one down the line and we do Google ads, but in this one we're going to be covering Facebook ads. And to start off, I want to know how you think about Facebook ads. I know everyone kind of knows what Facebook ads are at this point. They know what Facebook is, but how do you individually think of Facebook ads?
So I think the place to start is, where do people spend time online and where can you reach them? So the two Goliaths of the online advertising world are Google ads, and then I still refer to it often as Facebook ads, but really we should call it meta ads because it includes Facebook and Instagram, and people are spending a huge amount of time there. So if you want to be able to reach people and put your stuff in front of them, get them to convert, get them to take an action you want them to take, you've got to pick a place where you can reach them reliably, consistently, at scale, and do so often. And Facebook ads is definitely one of the places for that. So that's like the very first part to think about. Beyond that, you start getting into what form of advertising is it? Well, it's on a social media channel that presents challenges, also has some benefits. People can interact with your ad on Meta in a way that they obviously can't if it's a billboard or TV ad or whatever. But it's also interruption advertising. There's almost no search on Meta. It's very much scrolling. You're interrupting them from what they originally had planned to do and convincing them to hopefully take an action that you want them to take. So those are sort of the frameworks you have to think around what Facebook ads is, and then obviously you can get more into the specifics.
Yeah, awesome. And again, you're super familiar with Facebook ads and Google ads. How do those two compare?
Yeah, so with Google, you obviously have that intent side of things. So you have people that are searching for stuff, and that really does change the game from an advertising standpoint. Now, you're likely to pay a lot more depending on your niche in terms of cost per click to put your ads in front of people on Google as opposed to Meta because of that intent. That's very valuable. So in that way, it differs a lot. I actually think most people think they differ more than they do. People think of Google ads as just search. Google ads includes all sorts of other networks, display, which are like banner ads across the internet, YouTube, Gmail, shopping, other areas that don't contain anywhere near as much intent. So there is more interruption advertising. So there's a lot of synergy between the two. And I think a lot of businesses, if they were to think about their online advertising efforts, if you get those two and you have campaigns running on those two, you're covered effectively. Yes, there's other stuff you might want to go into. You could run ads on TikTok or Amazon if your business is that way inclined. But for the majority, that's going to tick the box, especially for local businesses.
Yeah, definitely. And for local businesses in particular. So I remember I was watching one of your videos last night. I think it's the most popular one on your main channel. And you were talking about that local businesses should be using lead campaigns. Can you talk about that and why you should be optimizing for leads?
Yeah. So effectively, Meta is now very smart at working out how to get you what it is that you want. So one of the most important things that I tell people when they first start advertising on Meta is tell Meta what you want. And if you are a local business and you want leads that you're then going to hopefully turn into customers by either meeting with them in person or calling them up over the phone or some sort of sales process after they first interact, you tell Meta you want leads, they're going to optimize the campaign for leads. They're going to work out who to put your ads in front of, what time of day, how often they need to see an ad to convert, all those various data points. But you have to start by getting the objective right, which is, by the way, Meta, this is what I want.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And you say Facebook is really smart. You've been in the game for some time now. Has Facebook always been smart, over the 10 years or so that you've been in the space?
It's gotten a lot smarter.
Okay.
A lot of AI integration, algorithms develop. So whereas we had to do a lot more of the heavy lifting as advertisers in terms of working out who to advertise to and things like that, now Meta's able to work out a lot more of that for us. So we can afford to say, particularly for a local business, look, we're just going to target everyone in this city, everyone in this local area. Meta, you go and work out who's interested in this stuff. We're going to focus, and that leaves us advertisers to be able to focus on things that really matter, things like your offer and your ad creative.
Uh-huh. Awesome. And can you talk a little bit more about how that works? Like what's specifically been going on in the past few years and what tools there are?
This is all very much stuff that happens like behind the scenes more than it is any specific tool you can use. There are new campaign types. So we've got Advantage Plus campaigns now. We didn't used to have those, and they are designed to be a more automated system, less advertiser input, more the platform taking control. But it's not like it was one way, then this system, this new campaign type was released and it was a different way. This is a process that's been going on longer and longer and longer, getting smarter and smarter and smarter, and you're able to leave more up to the platform. So yeah, Advantage campaigns are actually, as we speak, getting a new revamp. They're being re-engineered, and this happens, depending on when people listen to this happens every 6 months or so, where campaigns will get either small changes or in this case a really large change, but they're constantly evolving because at the end of the day these platforms want to make their ad platforms more efficient, better at generating leads, better at generating sales, because if they do that for us as businesses, as advertisers, we're going to keep spending money with them and we're going to spend more money with them. So they're highly incentivized to keep improving these things, and that's what they've been doing. So yeah, it's a continuation of a process that's been happening for years now.
Okay, awesome. And can you talk to me more about Advantage campaigns and who should be using them?
Well, with the new setup, which some advertisers already have, everyone's going to get it within the next 6 months. Everyone's effectively going to be using an Advantage Plus campaign. The structure's changing in that within that, you can use settings that previously would have been reserved for manual campaigns. So you can still create a manual type campaign, but you do that at a different stage. So that's like a restructuring. In terms of the things that Advantage Plus in its current form, assuming you've got the previous system brings, it's automated targeting, and it's allowing you to, in many cases, automated settings, allowing you to go out and focus on the other areas. For local businesses, I actually prefer most of the time that they take more control as an advertiser. When you're optimizing for sales and you're an e-commerce business, you can effectively say to Meta, this is what I want, and they can go and optimize the campaign for that. When you're optimizing for leads as a local business, which is what most local businesses are going to be optimizing for, yes, you can get Meta to optimize for that, but there's also this other element of, are these leads going to convert? So sometimes you might be willing as a local business to accept a higher cost per lead if it's a higher quality lead. It's quite difficult for Meta to work that out algorithmically, whereas you can have that input as an advertiser. So most local businesses, I would say, steer clear of the more Advantage Plus or tailored campaigns and go with manual campaigns, with the understanding that under the new setup, it'll be through an Advantage Plus campaign, but you can still use the manual setup within that because it's being restructured.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I'd like to talk about testing as well. I know you're a big advocate for testing. I think one of the quotes that you had was that, if you spend $500 on a campaign and it doesn't work, that's not $500 that you wasted. It's $500 that you learned from and then can improve upon. Can you talk about why testing with Facebook ads in particular is so important?
It's part of skill development, a huge part of skill development. One of the mistakes people make when they first start running Facebook ads is they expect the platform to get them results. They think as long as I've got a campaign created and I'm spending money, I will get leads, I will get customers. And that's just not the case. So one of the analogies I give is think of tennis. No one goes down to their local tennis club, having never played tennis before, plays for 3 days, and then enters the local tournament at the end of the month, gets absolutely smashed, barely wins a point, and goes, tennis doesn't work. You would never say tennis doesn't work.
Yeah.
You would just understand, I'm just not good enough at tennis yet in order to be able to compete with these people. It's the same with Facebook ads. You're in a competitive landscape. You are competing against other advertisers that have been doing it longer. If you want to succeed on the platform, you need to develop that skill. That comes down to educating yourself, but it also comes down to testing and experimentation. You can't just throw up one ad, hope it works. You have to keep going, experiment with different creative offers, ad copy, and find what works specifically for your business and for your niche, because it will vary quite a bit depending on what it is that you're advertising. Yeah, so testing is something that we're doing for our clients all the time. We are testing all sorts of different things, testing different formats, different styles. And if you keep along that testing process, it sounds quite boring, it sounds a bit monotonous, but if you keep going, you can find options and new options that perform so much better than what you would have produced that first time you put an ad together. And one of the things that I like to think about is, if one ad out of 10 produces a 3x return on ad spend, one ad out of 100 is in the best ad out of 100 might produce a 6x return on ad spend or a 9x return on ad spend. Now, to get there, you've got to create 100 ads. That's a lot of time, that's a lot of effort, that's a lot of work. But what would it do for your business if you got triple the results from the same ad spend? It might completely change everything because it might allow you to scale, have more customers than you know what to do with, open new locations, whatever it is that you've got as an objective. But you have to be willing to go through that. And the only way you get the best ad out of 100 ads is to make 100 ads. That involves a huge amount of testing. So it's absolutely core to any Facebook, Instagram advertising work is being willing to go, okay, we're looking at what's worked. We think this will work, but we're going to experiment now. And this applies not just to Facebook ads, by the way. This applies to like any online advertising. The platforms give you such great feedback in terms of the data that you can test so quickly and you can iterate so fast. So for example, my content team right now, we've created a new TikTok account. I haven't really done anything on TikTok personally, and we are in absolute testing mode. We are testing a different type of video every single day. If someone was to go through to my profile now, it looks completely scattered, doesn't make any sense, but we're trying to work out what will work for my personal brand. And you could do the same thing with ads, you can do the same thing across there. Because the feedback is so fast, it's fantastic for being able to sort of test your way to success.
Yeah, awesome. That was a great explanation. I love that tennis analogy where,
yeah,
well, we barely lost, or it's a basketball game or whatever. Like anything else, you're okay with losing because that that's just part of the process. But most people, when they, especially local business owners, because I talk to a ton, once they get into it, they're like, what? Facebook ads doesn't work. I did them for a month. Or Google ads don't work. I did them for 2 months. It's like, well, you have to put a little bit more time into it. And, I'm specifically in SEO. So SEO is all about testing as well. Like all of these platforms are all about testing. And it's not just about testing the one platform, but also about testing all of the platforms. So I was talking with a client, yesterday, and was really emphasizing that the next year or so should really be focused on testing so that we can figure out what platforms work best. And then we can focus on that instead of, just maybe going all in on one platform that we don't really know that works. So yeah, I'm a huge advocate for testing as well. I love that. And then also tell me the difference between Instagram and Facebook, because I know they're now kind of together with Meta, but is there a difference there? Or are they basically the same?
Yeah, so there are differences. There's differences demographically. Facebook is going to skew older than Instagram. Facebook's going to be a bit more text heavy than Instagram, although that's been changing as well over time. From an advertiser standpoint, it kind of doesn't matter because you advertise on both through the same ad platform. As long as you have what we talked about right at the beginning, the right campaign objective set up and you're optimizing the campaigns for what you want, Meta's going to work out, should we put 50% of your budget on Instagram, 50% on Facebook, or should it be 85% of your budget on Instagram, 15% on Facebook, and vice versa? And that's going to depend on your business. More visual-based businesses are often going to perform better on Instagram. Ones that skew towards a younger demographic are going to be better. And that's all going to be worked out for you automatically. You can manually override and decide just to advertise on one platform or the other. I usually recommend you don't do that. You're better off advertising on both and letting Meta work it out for you. I've been doing this long enough to remember when Instagram ads were first introduced, and there was a ton of skepticism from Facebook advertisers. They were like, it's all kids, no one's going to buy, and they're just looking at photos, this isn't going to convert. And people didn't run ads on Instagram for a long time. They manually overwrote it and just advertised on Facebook. But the longer that went on, the more people put ads on Instagram, realized you could get conversions there as you did on Facebook. And actually now I'd say, this has been more than 10 years ago. Now we're in a complete inverse of that situation where Instagram is seen as the cooler platform, the one where you want your brand to be represented, where you want your ads to be. That is now the place where, so CPMs is cost per thousand impressions, right? That's a typical metric used to measure the cost of advertising because your cost per click or cost per conversion is so dependent on your own individual business. CPM is relatively stable. CPMs, so cost per thousand impressions, are now higher on Instagram than they are on Facebook because so many brands are like, we want to be on Instagram. Facebook's kind of the older platform. And that's kind of funny to see that completely shift in 10 years. So yeah, so there are definitely differences from an advertising standpoint. It doesn't really matter. You want to set your ads up to advertise on both, which is the default. and let Meta work it out for you.
Yeah, okay, awesome. That's a great affirmation, because I thought that was the case, and that, Meta is just so smart now that you should kind of just let it do its thing. So that's great to know. And then I'm glad you brought up CPMs, because I wanted to talk about what metrics local business owners should be looking at. Like when you go into your ad account, specifically like when you go into an ad account, what are you looking for?
Yeah, so it's super easy to get lost in the detail. So I always like to bring things back to the basics, and that is, for most local businesses that are optimizing for leads, what is your cost per lead? Now, you have to look at that in conjunction with your conversion rate. And I often get business to work backwards. Okay, right. How much is each customer worth to you? Our customers are worth $1,000. Okay, great. What are you willing to pay to acquire that $1,000 customer? Well, if we pay $200 in advertising cost, a 5x return on ad spend, that would work for us, given our margins. Okay, fine. So we can pay $200 to get a customer. What's your conversion rate from lead to customer? We convert about 1 in 4. Great. Okay, so we can afford to pay $50 cost per lead to pay $200 because we convert 1 in 4 for a customer that's then worth $1,000. Those maths all works out, right? So then you're optimizing and making your decisions around that $50 cost per lead target. Now, you need to keep an eye on your conversion rate to make sure that doesn't slip, in which case that changes the equation. But that's what you want to be looking at, and that's what you want to be optimizing around. If you start going down the route of, oh, okay, my CTR, my click-through rate's not as good as it could be, my CPMs are too high, what can I do to adjust that? You can really easily optimize for those secondary metrics, but it not actually do the thing that matters, which is be more profitable for your business. So you could, for example, reduce your CPMs by advertising to a less sought after audience. CPMs is a reflection of how many people want to advertise to that audience, right? So like my CPMs when I'm running ads on my own YouTube channel are really high because my audience is business owners, entrepreneurs, marketers. Lots of advertisers want to reach those people and they're willing to pay a premium. Other platforms will have, a demographic that's mostly children, like YouTubers, for example, they're going to have much lower CPMs. Well, the same happens with Facebook and Instagram ads. You're trying to reach high net worth individuals. Yes, you're going to pay more in terms of CPMs, cost per thousand impressions, than if you're trying to reach other demographics. So you can change that. You can change your targeting to go after inferior demographics for your offer, but will they convert? They're far less likely to do so. So I think that the most important thing, if you're setting different ads, different strategies, what's our cost per lead? How does this compare? This is what we're going to use to optimize. With that in mind, if you're trying to then diagnose why something might have a worse cost per lead, for example, then you start having a look at the various metrics. So then you might look at what I call the secondary metrics, things like click-through rate. Okay, our cost per lead on this ad is not very good, but the click-through rate is good. Okay, so what does that mean then? Well, that means we're getting lots of clicks through to our landing page, but they're not converting once they get through to our website. Do we need to do some work on our website? Do we need to improve our landing page? Do we need to add customer testimonials or something like that? It could be the opposite. It could be that your click-through rate's really low. They're converting well once they get there. Right. In the ad, then, we need a stronger call to action to help convince people to take action. If you're running video ads, you might look at a secondary metric like a hook rate. Hook rate would be what percentage of people get past the first 3 seconds of the video ad. If that's low, okay, we need to work on the very beginning of our video ad to make it more engaging. That's why we're not getting many clicks. That's why we're not getting many leads, is because no one's actually watching this thing in the first place because it's not hooking people to begin with. So the secondary metrics, typical secondary metrics we're going to look at are going to be click-through rate, and that's link click-through rate, not just regular click-through rate that counts all the clicks on an ad. Reading the primary text, for example, is going to count as a click in that case. Ditch that. You want link click-through rate. It's then going to be the conversion rate from click to lead. Obviously, I've talked already about the conversion rate from lead to eventual customer. And then if we're running video ads, we're going to look at hook rate as being one of the most important thing. If you're running image ads, that doesn't apply, so you don't need to worry about that. We're going to keep an eye on CPMs, but I'm almost reluctant to give that recommendation because you can, like I just described, do things to mess up to improve your CPMs that actually mess up your overall results. And even you can do that with the other metrics as well. I want to sort of give a word of caution there, because if you could have something super attention grabbing that's going to improve your hook rate, or something really outlandish that helps improve those metrics, that doesn't mean the people that follow are then actually going to be interested and come through and become a lead and convert. So always look in that primary metric. But yeah, those would be some of the options. Once you get beyond that, I think you're getting into the weeds and you're probably focusing on the wrong stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And so something else I wanted to touch on, which is kind of controversial, but one of the videos I saw that you did, you were saying that you actually want to drive customers, like, let's say you're optimizing for leads. You were saying that you want to drive customers to your website and then fill out a form or call there instead of filling out a form directly on Facebook, because the leads are more quality there. Can you talk more about that, of why you want to send leads to the website instead of filling out a form directly on Facebook?
So I don't think you want to in all scenarios. I think that is very much a test for your business and see which performs best. Typically, we find that an instant form, which is as you described, you click on an ad instead of coming through to a page on a website, you fill out your details on Facebook or Instagram, send them to the company, and then that company could then have the opportunity to contact you and sort of progress towards a sale. That's much easier for people to do. Meta loves it because people don't leave the platform, so that keeps them happy. So that means you typically see a significantly lower cost per lead if you're going to run with that setup. However, that lack of friction means you don't weed out the leads that aren't as interested, and therefore you can see a lower quality lead. So it's really a trade-off. Some businesses are happy with more volume and lower quality. Most local businesses are probably not. They'd probably rather the higher quality and send people through to their website. That said, you need to have a decent website. It needs to look good. It needs to be designed well. It needs to tick the boxes. It needs to have reviews and testimonials. It needs to have those trust points. If you don't have that, you're better off using an instant form. So for most businesses, what I recommend is you test both. It's really easy to have a campaign that you've created that's sending people through to your website, or the other way around, duplicate it and use the opposite setup. So set up an instant form and have people go through that process instead. We have clients right now that are running with either, and depending on what we found works best for them and their overall objective.
So another thing I definitely want to touch on is, I know you're super big on offers, and you want to have an amazing offer on your Facebook ads so that people click, they stop their scroll. Can you talk about how to make a great offer on your Facebook ads?
Yeah. So the offer, particularly for local businesses, is the most important thing. It's one of the highest leverage things you can do. Probably, I was going to say in your marketing, probably in your entire business as a local business, because wherever you're advertising, you've got to think about how many other businesses that offer what you offer are also advertising on Meta using Facebook ads right now. Probably not that many.
Mm-hmm.
If there's
Yeah.
10, you've probably got a lot of competition. There may well be less than that. So being able to be the best and differentiate yourself from the pack when it's only 5, 10, maybe 20 if you're operating like a big city or whatever, is really quite easy to do. You don't need to. It's so much easier to do that than try and create ads and compete with the best sportswear brands in the world, right? And the offer is the best shortcut to being able to do that. So when you think about an offer, the offer is what people get. So it's, yes, your product or service, but it's also the other things that come with that. And the best resource that I've read on offers is Alex Hormoz's $100 million offers book. And it's brilliant. It talks about there being different components to an offer. So there's what people get. There's perceived likelihood of actually getting that, because we sign up for services and buy products all the time that they say they can do something for us, but can it actually do that for us, right? So that's one element that you can include to improve an offer. I'll talk about how in a second. And then the other side of it, you've got how much time is required or how much resource is required from the person in order to get the thing that they want to get. So if you can improve on those with an offer, then you have a much better offer, right? So let's take a service that you might offer. Improving the offer to improve the perceived likelihood of achievement will be a guarantee, would be a fantastic way of doing that. So you could say, we achieve X for you with our service, or you get your money back. It could be time-based. So we guarantee installation of certain product within 48 hours, or you don't pay for us. A classic example would be, your pizza's delivered in 30 minutes, or you don't pay for it, that sort of thing. You can make it very clear in your ad about the lack of hassle, the lack of time commitment from your prospect. We do kitchen remodeling, be tidy, constrain ourselves to this part of the house. You can stay, it's nice and easy. We'll get it all done within 4 working days. No big hassle, no mess, that sort of thing. And that's decreasing the objections and the issues that are associated with it. I think for a lot of businesses, one of the strongest elements is a guarantee. And that's one of the things I always come back to and focus on with offers is adding in the guarantee. Another thing that local businesses need to think about in terms of offers is urgency and scarcity. Scarcity is quite easy to add in for a local business. The scarcity is there's only so many of these that we can do. There's only so many of these that we have to sell. Most local businesses can only work with a certain number of clients every month. And you can say that in your advertising. It'd be like, we've got this offer for new kitchens. We get it done in 5 days. We have this special deal, this discount, or something along those lines. That would be the what you get part. We only have 3 more spaces left for the end of the quarter. If you're interested, click it. So you can make it really, okay, only 3 spaces left. We can go on and take action. And you can think of all the businesses that do this really well. Urgency is slightly different to scarcity in that it's not around how much is left. It's around a time frame. So you could have a special deal that is going to run out at the end of the month. Depending on where people are, where they listen to this sort of reference may or may not carry much weight. But in the UK, we've got this sofa company called DFS. And it is famous. It's laughed about that DFS always have a sale on. Like at any one time, they used to do, they don't do so much, but they used to do loads of advertising. They've got this sale on this month, a different sale on the month after, different sale on the month after. And they probably took it too far because they almost became a meme. But that is a good example of, we have clients that have a sale running all the time. And you can mix it up. Whereas by the end of the month, it's 20% off. Next month, it's buy one of these, get one of these free. Next month, it's pay for this service and we'll chuck this extra thing in for free. So you can mix it all up. But having that with a deadline creates urgency. It makes people, along with scarcity, ideally include both, not always possible, ideally include both. But it makes people go, when they're on their phone, looking at, scrolling Instagram, sat on the loo, and they see an ad for your business, and they go, I'll deal with that in 2 days' time, and they completely forget about it. The urgency element, the scarcity element, make them go, I need to do this now. I'm standing in a line waiting for whatever, my coffee. I need to do this now, otherwise I'm going to miss out on this great deal. And that's really important, because otherwise life gets in the way and distracts people from taking the action you want them to take. So yes, there's many elements to an offer, but those are some of the ones. And I think that if you can come up with a fantastic offer for a business like that, it's an absolute game changer.
Okay, cool. And kind of a follow-up question to that, do you think it should be more of a lead magnet to start, or should it go right into the offer? So maybe something like pest control, it might be, because I typically serve pest control companies, it might be something like, hey, we'll come over and just do a free inspection, or, call us and just, tell us what problems you're facing. So I'd say that's more of like a lead magnet, or even to tell them of maybe like what are the top pests that are going to be around the springtime or this summer. Do you think they should go the lead magnet route, or that local businesses should go straight to getting a sale and doing like an offer of exactly what they provide already?
It's a good question. So I think it depends on the average customer value and how much knowledge there is around what's currently being offered. So with pest control, I think it probably makes sense to have that intermediate step. People are going to have a lot of questions. They're probably going to want to know what's involved. A lot of pest control involves poison in and around people's houses, right? So they're going to have like, is that okay? Is it kid friendly, pet friendly? All this sort of stuff, right? So there are these questions. And also I imagine that unless it's quite a simple job, there's going to be a reasonably high average customer value depending on what pest and what treatment's involved. If you're advertising something that's less expensive and that everyone understands, you could have a local business that say a car wash, just go straight for the sale. It doesn't cost a lot, very easy. Everyone understands, you're going to clean my car, pretty straightforward, right? So I sort of typically have structured things with like a 3-tier. If you're under $100 in terms of what your customers are going to pay you, just go direct to offer. If you're 100 to about 1,000, then a lead magnet first approach can work really well. I would still, by the way, test direct to offer, but just as like a guideline, that can work really well. If you're over 1,000, I'd be looking at lead magnet first, as you described, or even what I call my omnipresent content strategy, which is putting ads in front of people again and again that deliver value, demonstrate what you do, have client testimonials. It's effectively like putting people through an email follow-up sequence, but instead you're doing it with meta ads is a good way of, if people are familiar with email follow-up sequences, how that might work. You're doing it with meta ads as well. Because depending on how much money someone is going to have to give you for your product or service is really determines how much warming up you need to do. Local restaurant looks nice, great. Let's book tonight. Let's go. Easy to say yes to. Car wash, another good example, but more involved things, they're going to require more convincing.
Yeah, okay, that makes perfect sense. And I'm glad that you have that kind of 3-tiered model. I've actually never thought about it that way. I always assumed, because usually I'm thinking more about my agency and, okay, well, the agency is higher ticket. So when people work with us, they're usually going to want a lead magnet first. There might be a free video or a free checklist or something. But for local businesses that might have a fairly low ticket service, like $100. It doesn't really make sense to do a lead magnet before that. So awesome. I'd like to finish out this podcast with a few rapid fire
because you have to pay
FAQs,
for the
maybe
multiple
30.
steps.
Yeah, no, exactly. It makes complete sense. And people have to like climb the ladder in a sense. So cool. And I want to do a rapid fire FAQ at the really Q&A, whatever, at the end of this podcast. So I've got a few questions for you, and we'll kind of go back and forth, maybe 30 to 60 seconds each one. So the first question I have for you is, do boosted posts work or not, and why?
Yes, they can do, but they're not ideal. Like we said before, if you've got a good offer, that'll make up for a lot of issues with your campaign setup. So you could have a great offer for a local business and boost the post, and it could do just fine. But you would be better off and you'd see better results if you set things up properly through Ads Manager, like on a laptop, as opposed to just quickly boosting through an app.
Okay, cool. Next question is, who should be running awareness ads, if anyone?
Really big brands that have massive budget that just want their thing to become synonymous in the customer's mind with that industry. So if I say soft drink or soda, you think Coca-Cola, right? You just immediately do that. Other than that, businesses that want to use the omnipresent content strategy that I described, where you're putting ads in front of people repeatedly again and again, we use the awareness campaign objective for that. They've got a frequency cap, which means we can really accurately determine how often people in that process as part of that campaign structure are seeing our ads and seeing different ads that do different things. Otherwise, stay clear.
Awesome. Okay, next question I've got for you is video ads or image ads? Which one works better right now?
Yeah, so I've polled my audience on this, and we've got a lot of data internally because we have something like 450 ad accounts as part of our business manager. Video ads perform best about 60% of the time, with the other 40% being a mixture of image, carousel, and other. So most of the time, video ads are going to perform better. I would say that you don't want to go down that route unless you have the capability to produce a video ad that looks good, either because you have those skills in-house or you have the budget to be able to pay people who know what they're doing to produce high quality video. Otherwise, it's less likely to perform well, in my experience, than image ads, because they're much easier to create, particularly for local businesses, particularly for ones that have an element of expertise-based service, which is what a lot of local businesses do. Video is fantastic for building that trust with your audience, for demonstrating what you do, for making your potential customer feel like there's real people that really care and are going to do a good job for the thing that they care about, which is what, when people are hiring local service providers, most of the time they're hiring them to do something for them that they really care about. They want it done well. They want it done right. So yes, you're better off going into video, but make sure you do it right if you take that step.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and video is much harder to get down. So for most people, I'd probably assume that's images instead. Okay, cool. And last question I've got for you before we wrap up is, what's the most underrated Facebook ad strategy that no one talks about?
I wouldn't say there's one that no one talks about. I mean, maybe that's my situation because I speak to so many people within the Facebook ads world. I was literally saying to someone the other day, I think I might have spoken to more Facebook advertisers than anyone ever, because I have the largest audience in the Facebook ad space. I have this mentorship program that I had thousands of people go through it and do Q&As with them. So I hear absolutely every strategy there has ever been.
Yeah.
But the one that I really like, because I think is undervalued, is using influencers. And a lot of people seem to think that influencer marketing needs to be, you send the Kardashians your latest handbag and you give them $1 million for it and they post about it on their Instagram. And what I'm talking about is very, very different for that. Firstly, you can work with a much, much, much smaller influencer. If you're a local business, that could be someone that's just well known in that local town, would be a perfect example. It's going to cost a tiny, tiny fraction, often not that much at all. And instead of just having them post on their socials about your thing, what you do is you get them to create some video ads that you can then run as ads yourself. And we've done this with so many businesses, and the impact can be massive, because when someone's scrolling through Facebook, scrolling through Instagram, and they see someone they recognize, particularly if it's someone they recognize and respect, that's going to stop their scroll much better than almost anything else. That then gives you the opportunity to put your offer in front of them, to tell them why your company's so amazing, why they should work with you, etc., etc. So most local businesses can think of some people that are just sort of known in their city, in their town, that would be perfect for what it is that they do. Contact them, try and get them to create some video ads for you, pay them for it, obviously, and that can be an absolute game changer. And like with Facebook ads, like with a lot of forms of any form of digital marketing, because it is so scalable, if you can find something that works much better than what you're currently doing, that doubles your return on ad spend, triples your return on ad spend, that can allow you to scale massively. So yeah, influencers, I think, are undervalued in the Facebook ads world.
Awesome. And last question I've got for you is, what is the minimum budget that local businesses should have on a monthly basis for Facebook ads?
Sorry, say that one again.
What is the minimum budget that local businesses should have for Facebook ads on a monthly basis?
I normally say to people, don't start with anything less than $10 a day. And even with that, that's a pretty small budget. If you operate with $10 a day and you get a 5x return on ad spend, which would be decent, that's still only $1,500 a month generated. So for a lot of businesses, it's not really going to be worth it, not really going to move the needle. The $10 a day minimum is getting started. I'm learning the platform. I'm familiarizing myself with this. Look, I generated some leads. Isn't that fun? And then even local businesses that do operate with smaller budgets than larger businesses, obviously, they're going to want to scale from that point. But I think that's a reasonable starting point. There's a lot of fear and a lot of nerves from businesses that haven't gone down that road before. There's all these sort of things they worry about might happen that never happen. Worst thing that's like to happen is you just lose a little bit of money and then you learn something. No big deal. But yeah, so I think I'm often an advocate for starting small, starting with something you're comfortable with, working it out, and then being able to scale from there.
Awesome. Well, I think this is a great place to end. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Ben. And where can people find you on social media, learn more about you and the services that you provide?
Sure. Yeah, it's been great to chat. Some really good questions. So thank you for that. You just search for the name Ben Heath, and you'll find me on YouTube, well, across all sorts of socials. My website is heathmedia.co.uk in case anyone's interested in using our services. I imagine your audience is going to be primarily US based. About 70% of our clients are US based, even though we're UK based as a company. So we work with clients all over the world, 40 something countries at this point. So yeah, if you're interested, you can go through there, book in a free call with one of my guys, and they can let you know how we may be able to help you.
That's awesome. And so, because I want to give them somewhere for people to go. So I know your YouTube channel is huge. They should definitely go there. I think you also, like you're talking about, you have a group where you coach people on Facebook ads. What is that, and how can people find that? Did you get that last question?
Any audio right now? No, not at all. Go again.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, I want to promote specific platforms. So I know you're huge on YouTube. People should definitely go subscribe to your YouTube channel. And then anything else you'd like to promote? I know you have that, I believe, that mastermind group. Anything else that you'd like to plug or promote?
No, I think we've discussed it. Yeah, you can find I have the world's largest Facebook group for Facebook advertisers called the Facebook Ads Mastermind Group. You can jump in. There's nearly 300,000 people in there at this point. Good community to connect with other people, ask questions, all that sort of stuff. But otherwise, just check me out on socials, and if you're interested, come through to our website.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for coming on, Ben. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Of course.